All right, so wow, this is, I just realized before I came up here while I was down there that the last time I did this, Chase missed it because he was in children's worship. And now he's missing it because he drove himself to Boy Scout camp. So it's been a long time. He might have made it back to see it on Zoom. I don't know. Hopefully he can watch this. But so I got a call about 2 weeks ago from Mike. He left a message on my work phone, and I got to admit, like when I first, he said, "Hey, give me a call back," and that was kind of startling. So I'm like, how does he know that I got a ticket driving through McKeesport? Like, did God tell him? Like, so I was so nervous. I was like, is that what it is? Is it something else? And I started thinking, does Shauna get nervous like this every time he calls her? Like, I doubt it, but so I did call him back, and he said, "Hey, could you cover church for me while I go to California?" It's like, yeah, let me think about it. And I thought about it, and really the debate kind of came down to two things. I thought if I don't do it, Steve might do it, and if Steve does it, I probably won't get out of here till 1 o'clock. But if I do it, I could probably have my first bite of lunch by 12:15. So my stomach did the talking, and here I am. So, but seriously, it was a great honor for him to even ask. That's pretty cool. That you guys trust me to do this. It's kind of nice. So hopefully I don't let you down, and I'll say something that's somewhat enlightening to you guys. So, like I said, the second time I've done it. This time, distracted Christianity. So. Like the verses kind of alluded to and Steve mentioned, just finding time to spend with God and Jesus is something I think we all struggle with. So, as Kaylin will tell you, I have like 3 stories. Like I don't have a vast array of stories like some people like Mike or Mickey. So I tell the same stories over and over again. So I think I've told part of this to some of you guys, so bear with me. But this is kind of my journey through Christianity. So when I was young, I had a great Christian family, still do, a very tight-knit family. That's me in the front with the camouflage shirt. That's my dad in the back right with the matching camouflage shirt. And then my mom and sister on the right in the red. For some reason, we matched as a family. I don't remember ever doing that, but they were a very tight-knit family that were all Christians, all very good, good people, still are to this day. Had a very good influence on me, and that kind of led to the Christian knowledge. So we went to church. We were, old school West Virginia Church of Christers. Went every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night. Didn't miss a beat. So I got a lot of education there from great teachers. I got a lot of stuff from my grandparents. Just talking to them, obviously through my parents, the influence from them. So I had a lot of good background. Then I went to college, and there was a Christian youth group there for college. Michael and Terry were in it. Lisa was in it. So that's me and Lisa on the left there. Not the far left, that's not me. But this was our first Mexico mission trip together, I think. But that was a big step for me. So I had a really good group of peers for the first time ever at church. I didn't really have that in my church growing up. It was a real small church. And there were a few of us, but it wasn't like a huge group of people like you guys. You guys are really blessed to have such a good teen group. And when I went to college, I had my first experience with that. Plus, the church there was really, really strong. They had a lot of people that would kind of take you into their house, give you a meal, a lot of good influences on us. And we had a lot of good studying. Carl McClarty on the right there, he was our youth minister, campus minister. Great teacher, so really helped me to grow more in my Christianity. But I, at that point, still wasn't baptized. At the point in that picture, I was not baptized. So what was the missing link? So why was I not baptized? So it was a weak prayer life. I didn't really have a relationship with God himself. I knew all the things about God, not all of them, but a lot of them. I knew the background, I knew the history, I knew of God, I trusted, I believed it all. I didn't really have that personal connection. And it kind of came to me yesterday. I was like, wow, it's kind of like the Pharisees. Like I knew the law, but I didn't know God. So There were way too many distractions for me to spend that quiet time with God. So here are my distractions, list of distractions. Full disclosure, so I know Mike has used Nintendo Entertainment System in the past, so here's Super Mario Brothers. Lots of video games for me when I was a kid growing up. Cartoons, you might be able to tell by my personality that I watched a lot of stupid cartoons. So yeah, not praying, but watching Animaniacs. Then I got a little older, started getting a job, and then cars, and I was obsessed with cars. That was my first car, actually. That's the actual first picture. And then college, of course. So like I said, it was good influence. I had great people I was talking to and everything, but it was still, there was a lot of distractions in college. Didn't take time to get to know God himself. And then, of course, the biggest distraction was girls. Women are a huge distraction. I don't know who that loser is in the left side, but the guy that she wound up with was definitely a step up. So that's both of us at Cooper's Rock, actually, in case you were curious. Many years later, what was it, like 25 years later or something crazy? So how did I find time with God? So I know each of you probably have your own ways of trying to get away from the crazy hassles of life, but this is what I did. I bought a new car. So I know you're probably wondering, like, how in the world did that get you closer to God? Okay, so full disclosure, I didn't buy a car so that I could get closer to God, but I have a story that I've told many times, I'm sure, on how that happens. So when you buy a new car, you don't want it to get dirty. But to pay for the new car, you have to have a job. So if you look down in the bottom right corner where it says Moorfield, that's where my grandfather's sawmill was. It's actually not there in this picture. It's kind of been mostly moved to another location. But sawmills are very dusty, very dirty. And the workers there love to play pranks on you. So they like to put grease under your door handles, under your windshield wipers, take your tires off while you're working, stuff like that. So I parked at our church, which is in the top left of that map. So the Moorfield Church of Christ. I parked there, and then in the middle there, that's the actual view of the parking lot. So I parked right there in the middle. There used to be a big shade tree there, and I would walk the 0.3 miles to work and back. So how did this get me closer to God, you ask? So I didn't always spend that time talking to God. Sometimes I was thinking about music, cars, Lisa, perhaps. This was the summer of '99, if I remember right. But there were occasions where I did spend thinking about God and then eventually talking to God a little bit more. And on the very last day before I went back to college in, like I said, I believe summer of '99, I had this revelation where, I know Mickey's talked about this, people always have these feelings where they have these, you hear a lot of stories about people, it just kind of clicked, and that's what happened. So I was walking to work that day, and it clicked. Like I was talking to God, and everything made sense, and I decided I was going to get baptized. So I worked the rest of the day, drove back to Morgantown, and got baptized with Lisa. She was there, and some of my friends. So it was a pretty exciting time. So what does the Bible say about spending time with God? So Psalm 77:12 says, I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds. And then I thought this was a really good example too. Even Jesus needed time alone with the Father. So that's not revolutionary, but the way this verse is worded just kind of stood out to me this time. Luke 5:15, yet the news about him spread all the more so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sickness. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. So what really stood out to me about that was, wow, Jesus was put here on the earth for a very specific purpose, a very important purpose, the most important purpose. And all these people are coming to him and they want to talk to him. They want to be healed. And he knows that he has a very finite amount of time. But he still withdrew from that and took time with God. That was just as important as healing people and preaching the word at that point. You have to build that relationship with God. You have to spend that time with God. And it just, if he can peel himself away from people that are crying out his name, why can't I peel myself away from SpongeBob. All right, so after I got baptized, obviously the struggles don't end. You have a family, and you get even more distractions. Or maybe not more distractions, but maybe more pressing distractions. But some distractions are good. So this was for Donnie, because Donnie always says that he thinks that whenever I go to work, I wear a white lab coat. I have no idea where he got that idea, but work is very important. Like, God wants us to work. We have to work. We have to support our families, right? That's what we need to do. We have to spend time with family. And then, of course, my family, we do a lot of things. I have sports up here. We do a lot of sports. We also do a lot of scouts, just a lot of stuff. We're just crazy busy. Like Lisa and Jackie were just talking about how busy we are. And that's all good stuff. God made us with these skills to be able to do these things. But we need to identify what keeps us from God. So 1 Corinthians 10:23 says, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. So, now don't get offended by this, but here's my example of the thing. Some people really love their phones, and I do too. This is the thing that really I can identify that pulls me away from my spare time, that I could be spending with God. And I saw something. It was one of the other researches I was doing for the teen class. He mentioned that you never have downtime. Before you had downtime, you would be filling up your gas tank, and you would be able to think about God or talk to God. Now you start filling up your gas tank, and even though the little sticker says don't use your cell phone, you pull your cell phone out and you start playing with it, right? You do that all the time. Walking through the parking lot, you look at your phone. A lot of people do. You're constantly distracted by the thing. So we fill every second looking at stuff and learning about new things, which learning is good, but sometimes you need to step away. So we use our phones for a lot of great things, like music and videos. That's not bad. But again, we need to watch how much we use. Work, I don't have a ton of work on my phone, a little bit, but the distraction is there. Sometimes that thing will beep at you at 9 o'clock at night with work stuff. A big one is 24-hour news, and then that's just constant. Like when I was a kid, my dad would watch the news at, 7 o'clock for like 30 minutes, and that was it. Now it's all day. And then social media. This is like a big pet peeve of mine because I've been sucked into it, and still use it to some extent. But it has such a potential to be damaging as well. So you have to keep yourself in check on social media. The jealousy that comes from it, seeing other people do things that you would wish you were doing. There's studies that show depression and anxiety through the roof because of it. And then this is a big one, the influence by other people's agendas, which is actually something that we talked about in our teen class this morning. You're getting exposed to other people's agendas all the time. And that's not just social media, that's the news, everything, not God's. So you're seeing, let's say, how many hours in a week? I don't know, didn't do the math like Mike always does. But there's so many hours in the week, and we're getting exposed to other people's agendas, not God's. And we need to separate ourselves from that and spend the time to study and to talk to God about that, to counteract all the bad influence that we're seeing. And then another one that we see for sure is fear of missing out. So when I was a kid, you would go to school, the weekend would happen. You might know that something cool was happening that you weren't invited to, or your mom was smart enough not to let you go to, which was mostly my thing. I always wondered, like, how do these kids, how do they pull the wool over their mom's eyes? Like, how are these kids going to this every weekend? Their mom doesn't figure it out. It's amazing to me. But anyway, my mom was smart. She wouldn't let me go to any of that stuff. But you would know what's going on, but it wasn't in your face. Then you would go on Monday morning, and then maybe people would talk about it. Oh, we did this. It was so fun. But then it was over. Like by that evening, you didn't hear about it anymore or whatever until the next week. Now, it's poor kids, it's on their phone all day. It's dinging at them. And we're guilty of this as adults too. You're constantly seeing what other people are doing that's probably more fun than what you're doing. Because you wouldn't post what you're doing at that moment, because it might be just sitting on a back deck. Maybe that's fun, but it's not going to Disney World. So that is something that I think we all struggle with, myself as well. So my point was, if I had a cell phone back in 1999, which I did, but it was a bag phone, I wouldn't have experienced that 0.3-mile walk that I had, would not have had the influence that it did. I would have been distracted. I would have been listening to music or watching videos or whatever as I walk. So we talk about things that are important, distractions that are important, like family and work. But I want to focus on the moderation. So everything is good in moderation, not everything obviously, but you need to keep yourself in check on how much we do these things. So Solomon speaks in Ecclesiastes 2, starting in verse 9. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity and a striving after wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. So the last line there, all was vanity and a striving after wind, and there's nothing to be gained under the sun. That's such a depressing statement to hear, right? Like he had spent his whole life doing all these great things to be happy. What does he say earlier? He says, I kept my heart from no pleasure. So that sounds like such a good thing, right? Like, oh yeah, we had so much fun. But all of it was for nothing, like chasing the wind. So that was a pretty good example, I think, of Solomon talking about that and how we need to keep ourselves in check. We need to enjoy life, enjoy the things that God has given us, but do it in moderation and make time for him. So don't deny yourself your time with God. So talk with God on the way to your car. Don't pull out your phone. It's not safe anyway. You're going to get hit by somebody. Look around you for God's wonders. So this comes back to how I was saying that Caitlin would say I only had 3 stories. I just told a story this morning. I'm going to do it again. So there's an agnostic that I work with that we're pretty good friends. And I've probably told some of you guys this story as well. But we always kind of trade barbs back and forth about, he'll say, well, why do you believe in God? Because of this. And I'll say, well, I believe in God because of that. Or, but it's a friendly conversation. Friendly but serious. So one day I was walking into work, and this was when I had a BlackBerry, so I wasn't looking at my phone. And a bird flew in, and it landed on the fence. And it did it so gracefully that I was like, wow, that's just amazing. Like, we have tried for hundreds of years to fly as people, to figure out how to fly. There's that old picture of the people that made the wax wings or whatever, and they died. And then all the machines that led up to the first helicopter and the first planes and everything. We have tried to reverse engineer the bird forever. We have the design. All we have to do is recreate it, and we can't do it. And if that's not enough to teach you that God is real and that all of this stuff that you hear out in the world is lies about God not creating things, then I don't know what you're going to find, because that, like I said, we can't physically recreate it on purpose. And they're saying that accidentally happened. There's no way. So look for those things. Bird's just one example. There's a million examples like that. So take time to study his word. This is something I struggle with. Just finding time to read the Bible is so valuable and important, obviously. And do all that, and God will surely reward you with a closer relationship with him. And that will reward you in all aspects of your life. So I know Mike's not here, but also I want to make sure that we have an invitation. So if you'd like to be baptized and become a child of God, we'll surely make that happen. Please come together or come up forward as we stand and sing.